The first rays of dawn crept through the tall windows of the mansion, painting the marble floors in soft gold. Amma's footsteps were barely audible as she moved through the grand hallway, her worn canvas bag clutched tightly against her chest. Her heart hammered so loudly she was certain it would wake someone. She had timed this perfectly. 5:30 in the morning, when the guards changed shifts, when the house was at its quietest, when even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. She was 3 steps from the massive oak door when she saw him. Jiho stood in the doorway like a statue carved from stone, his dark suit immaculate despite the early hour, his hands tucked casually into his pockets. The dawn light outlined his sharp features, making his expression unreadable. His eyes, however, were anything but casual. They pinned her in place with an intensity that made her knees weak. "Going somewhere?" His voice was calm, almost conversational, but it carried the weight of a command. Amma's grip tightened on her bag. I have an early bus to catch, sir. Family emergency." "At dawn?" Jiho took a single step forward, his eyes never leaving hers. "Without telling anyone? Without your final pay? Without even a goodbye?" She tried to look anywhere but at him. At the grandfather clock ticking against the wall, at the expensive paintings she had dusted 1,000 times, at the floor she had polished until it gleamed. But his presence was magnetic, pulling her attention back against her will. "It's urgent, sir. I need to go." "You're not leaving until you tell me who hurt you." The words hit her like a physical blow. Amma's breath caught in her throat. How did he know? She had been so careful, so quiet about everything. She had hidden the fear, buried the trembling, smiled through the terror that had kept her awake for 3 nights straight. "Nobody hurt me," she whispered, her voice betraying her with its shakiness. "I just need to leave." Jiho moved closer, and she instinctively took a step back. He stopped immediately, his jaw tightening. When he spoke again, his voice was softer but somehow more intense. "Your hands are shaking. You haven't slept. And there's a mark on your wrist that wasn't there 2 days ago." Amma's free hand automatically moved to cover her left wrist, where faint bruises formed a ring around her dark skin. Finger marks from where someone had grabbed her too tightly, too desperately, trying to scare her into silence. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "I bumped into something." "Amma." The sound of her name on his lips startled her. In 2 years of working in this mansion, cleaning his office, bringing him coffee he never drank, existing in the background of his dangerous world, he had never once said her name. She was always just you, or the maid, or nothing at all, invisible, safe in her invisibility. But now he was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. "Please," she tried again, her voice cracking. "Just let me go. It's better this way." "Better for whom?" Jiho's eyes darkened. "You think I haven't noticed? You think I don't see what happens in my own house?" Amma's mind raced back through the past months, through all the moments she thought she had been alone. She remembered polishing the marble floors of the grand foyer, her reflection stretching across the pristine surface as she worked. She remembered the weight of eyes on her back. But when she'd looked up, the balcony above had been empty. Or had it? She remembered the day she had skipped lunch because she couldn't afford to buy groceries that week, her salary going entirely to her sick mother back home. She remembered feeling faint by evening, and mysteriously, a full meal had appeared in the servant's kitchen with a note that said it was extra from the main kitchen. But the main kitchen never had extras. Someone had ordered it specifically. She remembered the winter morning when her coat had torn and a new one had appeared in her locker, plain and simple, but warm and exactly her size. No note, no explanation. Had it been him all along? "Sir, I don't understand what you want from me," Amma said, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "I'm nobody. I'm just a maid. Why do you care where I go?" Jiho's expression shifted then, something vulnerable flickering across his features before the mask slammed back into place. Because someone in this house targeted you. Someone threatened you. And I need to know who. How do you? I know everything that happens under this roof, he interrupted, his voice hardening. Or at least I thought I did. But someone got to you, and I didn't stop it. That's on me. Amma felt her resolve crumbling. The bag in her arms suddenly felt impossibly heavy. She wanted to run, wanted to disappear into the morning and never look back. But his eyes held her captive, demanding truth. Demanding trust she wasn't sure she could give. Why does it matter? She whispered. I'm leaving anyway. No. The single word was absolute. You're not leaving until I know you're safe. Until I know who did this. Until I can fix it. You can't fix everything. The words burst out of her before she could stop them. This is your world, your empire, your war. I'm just collateral damage. Let me leave before it gets worse. No! She was shaking now, fear and frustration and 2 years of silent suffering pouring out. You don't get it. Amma's voice rose, echoing through the empty hallway. People like me don't survive in your world. We're not supposed to be noticed. We're supposed to stay quiet, keep our heads down, and disappear when things get dangerous. That's what I'm doing. I'm disappearing. Not like this. Jiho's voice cut through her panic like a blade. Not running scared in the middle of the night with bruises on your wrist and terror in your eyes. He reached out slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. His fingers brushed against the strap of her bag. Let me see what you're running with. No. Amma tried to pull away, but his grip was gentle, yet unyielding. Amma, please. The word please sounded foreign in his mouth, like he wasn't used to asking for anything. Trust me, just this once. Something in his voice made her fingers loosen. The bag slipped from her shoulder into his waiting hands. She watched, helpless, as he set it on the marble floor and knelt beside it. The sight of the powerful mafia boss kneeling at her feet felt surreal, wrong somehow, like the natural order of their world had tilted sideways. Jiho opened the bag carefully. The first thing he pulled out was her cracked phone, the screen spider-webbed with fractures. This wasn't broken last week when I saw you using it in the kitchen. I dropped it, Amma said automatically. You're a careful person. You don't drop things. He set the phone aside and reached in again. This time he withdrew a piece of torn fabric, part of her uniform, the black dress she wore every day. The tear was violent, jagged, as if someone had grabbed it and ripped it in their fist. Amma's breath hitched. She remembered that night, 3 nights ago, when she'd felt the hand close around the fabric at her shoulder, yanking her backward into the shadows of the servants' corridor. The voice that had hissed in her ear. You need to leave, now, before something worse happens. Jiho's fingers tightened around the torn fabric. Who did this? I don't know, Amma whispered. I didn't see their face. But you heard their voice? She nodded slowly. Jiho reached into the bag one final time and pulled out a white envelope with her name written across it in precise, blocky letters. He looked at her, silently asking permission. When she didn't stop him, he opened it. A single piece of paper fell out, fluttering to the marble floor like a wounded bird. Jiho picked it up and read it, his expression growing darker with each word. Amma didn't need to see it to know what it said. She had memorized every threatening syllable. Leave the mansion by Friday, or next time. We won't miss. Jiho's hands trembled, not with fear, but with barely contained rage. When he looked up at her, his eyes blazed. How long have you had this? 3 days. 3 days? His voice was dangerously quiet. You've been living with this threat for 3 days and you didn't tell anyone? Who was I supposed to tell? Amma's own anger flared, hot and defensive. You? The man who barely knew I existed until today? The guards who work for you? The other staff who are just as scared as I am? This is your world, not mine. I don't have the luxury of protection. You should have told me. Why? The question hung in the air between them. Why would I think you'd care about a maid? Jiho stood slowly, the note still clutched in his hand. He took a step toward her, and this time she didn't back away. Because you're not just a maid to me. You never were. The confession hung between them, raw and unexpected. Amma stared at him, trying to process his words. What are you talking about? Do you remember 6 months ago, when that business deal went wrong? When I was supposed to meet with the Huang family and someone tried to poison my dinner? Amma nodded slowly. She remembered that night. The entire household had been on edge, security tripled, everyone moving like they were walking through a minefield. You were serving tea that night, Jiho continued, his eyes locked on hers. You noticed something was wrong with my cup before I did. You knocked it over, pretended it was an accident, took the punishment from the head housekeeper without saying a word about what you'd seen. I saw a strange residue, Amma whispered, the memory flooding back. It looked wrong. I thought maybe... You saved my life that night, and you think I didn't notice? Jiho's voice softened. I notice everything about you, Amma. I notice when you skip meals because you're sending money home. I notice when you work double shifts to cover for other staff. I notice when you're tired, when you're sad, when you're scared. I notice all of it. Tears spilled down Amma's cheeks before she could stop them. Then why didn't you say anything? Why did you let me think I was invisible? Because I thought invisible meant safe. Jiho's jaw clenched. I thought if no one knew I was watching you, protecting you, then you wouldn't become a target. But I was wrong. Someone figured it out anyway. Figured out what? That you matter to me. The words came out rough, like they cost him something to admit. That hurting you would hurt me. Amma shook her head, overwhelmed. This is insane. I'm nobody. I'm just... Don't. Jiho cut her off sharply. Don't diminish yourself. Not to me. You're not nobody. You're the woman who saved my life. You're the woman who works harder than anyone in this house. You're the woman who... He stopped abruptly, his composure cracking. Who what? Amma pressed, needing to hear it. Who I couldn't stop thinking about, Jiho finished quietly. Even when I tried. The hallway fell silent, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. Before Amma could respond, Jiho's phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. He pulled it out, his expression hardening as he read the message. We need to move, now. What? Why? Amma's heart lurched. Someone just reported movement in the East Wing, near the servants' quarters. Jiho's hand found the small of her back, firm and protective. We're going deeper into the mansion. Stay close to me. They moved quickly through the corridors, Jiho leading her away from the main entrance and toward the protected interior of the estate. Amma's mind spun with everything he'd just revealed, but fear kept her focused on the present moment. Her quarters were in the East Wing. Someone was there right now. They had just entered the inner courtyard when a figure stepped out from behind one of the marble columns. Amma gasped, recognizing him immediately. Min Seok, Jiho's business partner and the second most powerful man in the organization. He was older than Jiho by a decade, his hair graying at the temples, his smile sharp as a knife. The morning light cast long shadows across his expensive suit. Leaving so early, Jiho? Min Seok's voice was pleasant, conversational, but his eyes were cold as he glanced at Amma. And with company, I see. Jiho positioned himself between Amma and Min Seok, his posture deceptively relaxed. My movements are my own business, Min Seok. Of course, of course. Min Seok took a few steps closer, hands in his pockets. But when those movements involve certain staff members who've been overhearing things they shouldn't, it becomes everyone's business. Doesn't it? Amma felt ice flood her veins. She pressed closer to Jiho's back. her fingers clutching the fabric of his jacket. "Careful," Jiho warned, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "Very careful about what you say next. I'm simply stating facts." Min Seok's smile widened. 3 months ago, this particular maid was cleaning outside the study during a very private conversation. A conversation about the Jung family territory dispute. About strategies that were meant to stay confidential. Alma's mind raced back to that day. She had been polishing the hallway floors when raised voices had caught her attention. She'd tried to move away quickly, but the conversation had been heated enough that she'd caught fragments, names, places, plans. "She knows something that isn't hers to know," Min Seok continued, his eyes never leaving Alma. "And in our world, that's a liability we can't afford." "She's under my protection," Jiho stated flatly. "That makes her untouchable." "Your protection?" Min Seok laughed, the sound devoid of humor. "Is that what we're calling it now? Because from where I stand, it looks like a dangerous weakness. One that could cost us everything." Alma felt Jiho's muscles tense beneath her fingers. She knew she should stay quiet, should let him handle this, but something inside her snapped. She'd spent too long being invisible, too long being spoken about like she wasn't even there. "I never said anything," Alma spoke up, her voice stronger than she felt. "Not to anyone. Not about anything I heard." Min Seok's cold gaze shifted to her. "And yet, how can we trust that? How can we know you won't run to the authorities the moment you leave this mansion? Or sell information to our enemies?" "Because I wouldn't," Alma said firmly. "Because unlike you, I understand loyalty. I understand keeping my mouth shut even when it costs me." "Alma," Jiho started, but she stepped out from behind him, facing Min Seok directly. "You think I don't know what happens to people who betray this family?" Alma's hands were shaking, but she forced herself to stand tall. "You think I'm stupid enough to put myself or my family at risk by talking? I've worked here for 2 years. 2 years of hearing things, seeing things, knowing things, and I've never spoken a word. Not once." Something flickered in Min Seok's expression. Surprise, perhaps, that the quiet maid had a voice after all. "But there's something you don't know," Alma continued, her heart pounding. "Something I've kept quiet about, because I was trying to protect someone I thought deserved protection." Jiho turned to look at her, confusion and concern warring on his face. "Alma, what are you talking about?" She kept her eyes on Min Seok. 2 months ago, I was cleaning the library late at night. You were on the phone, Min Seok. You didn't see me behind the bookshelf, didn't hear me holding my breath while you talked about betraying Jiho to the Kim syndicate. About how you were going to feed them information on his operations in exchange for control of the southern territories. The courtyard went deathly silent. Even the morning birds seemed to pause their singing. Min Seok's pleasant mask shattered. "You're lying." "Am I?" Alma reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper, notes she'd scribbled that night, dates and names she'd memorized. "You spoke to someone named Director Kim. You mentioned the warehouse shipment scheduled for the 15th of next month. You said Jiho was becoming too soft, too distracted, that it was time for new leadership." Jiho took the paper from her trembling hands, his expression unreadable as he scanned it. When he looked up at Min Seok, there was murder in his eyes. "You were going to betray me," Jiho said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "And she knew. All this time she knew, and she kept quiet." "To protect you," Alma added softly, looking at Jiho. "Because you gave me a job when I had nothing. Because you were kind to my mother when she came to visit, even though you didn't have to be. Because despite everything, I believed you were a good man. And I couldn't stand by and watch you be destroyed by someone you trusted." Min Seok's face had gone pale. "This is absurd. You would take the word of a maid over mine?" "I would take the word of someone who had everything to lose by speaking up and chose to protect me anyway," Jiho replied. Unlike you, who had everything to gain from my downfall. Min Seok's hand moved toward his jacket, but Jiho was faster. Don't. Whatever you're reaching for, don't. You're done, Min Seok. Leave now, while you still can. For a long moment, Min Seok stood frozen. Then, slowly, his hand dropped to his side. This isn't over. Yes, Jiho said quietly. It is. If you come near her again, if you threaten anyone in this household again, if I even hear your name whispered in connection with my business, you won't get a warning. You'll simply disappear. Do you understand? Min Seok's jaw clenched, fury radiating from him in waves. But he was outnumbered, and he knew it. With one final venomous look at Amma, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing across the courtyard stones. The moment he disappeared through the archway, Amma's legs gave out. Jiho caught her before she hit the ground, his arms strong and steady around her. I've got you, he murmured. I've got you. I'm sorry, Amma gasped, adrenaline crash making her shake uncontrollably. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I just stayed quiet, if I just kept working, everything would be okay. You protected me, Jiho said, his voice rough with emotion. When you had no reason to, when I'd given you nothing but distance and silence, you still protected me. Why? Amma looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. Because you're not like them. You're not like Min Seok or the others. You have rules, you have lines you won't cross, and I thought... She swallowed hard. I thought the world needed more people like that, even if you didn't notice me. I noticed you, Jiho said fiercely. God, Amma, I noticed everything. And I should have told you. I should have protected you better. I should have... You're protecting me now, she whispered. They stayed like that for a moment, wrapped in the golden morning light. The danger momentarily passed, but not forgotten. Finally, Jiho helped her to her feet. Come with me, he said gently. You're not staying in the servants' quarters anymore. There's a room in the secure wing near my own. You'll be safe there. For how long? Amma asked. I can't hide forever. You're not hiding. Jiho's hand found hers, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that felt both foreign and perfectly natural. You're under my protection now, officially. Anyone who wants to hurt you will have to go through me first. That's what I'm afraid of, Amma admitted. I don't want to be the reason you get hurt. Too late, Jiho said with a ghost of a smile. You've been the reason for a lot of things for a long time now. Might as well add that to the list. He led her through the mansion, past curious staff members and alert guards, until they reached a wing Amma had only cleaned from the outside. The rooms here were for family, for people who mattered, not for maids. Jiho opened a door to reveal a spacious room bathed in morning light, elegant but not ostentatious. This is yours now, for as long as you need it, for as long as you want it. Amma stepped inside, overwhelmed. I don't understand. What am I now? I'm not a maid anymore, but I'm not... I don't know what I am. Jiho stood in the doorway, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. You're Amma, the woman who saved my life twice, the woman who saw the worst parts of my world and chose kindness anyway, the woman who... He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. The woman I can't imagine this house without. Jiho, she whispered, his name feeling strange and wonderful on her lips without the sir attached. Rest, he said gently. I have to handle Min Seok and secure the estate, but I'm posting guards outside your door. No one gets in without my permission. And Amma? Yes? Thank you. For everything. For protecting me when I failed to protect you. That's not a debt I'll forget. As he turned to leave, Amma called out, Jiho, wait. He paused, looking back. What happens now? After today, after everything, what happens? Jiho's eyes held promises he didn't voice. Futures neither of them could predict. Now, we make sure you're safe. Now, we figure out who else might have been involved in Minseok's plans. And now... He hesitated, then smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face. Now, you stop being invisible. Starting today, everyone in this house knows you're under my protection. And that means something. After he left, Amma sank onto the bed, her mind reeling. The morning had started with her trying to flee into obscurity. It was ending with her thrust into the very center of Jiho's dangerous world, no longer invisible but unmistakably seen. Through the window, she watched as security teams moved across the grounds, as the mansion that had been her workplace transformed into her sanctuary. Somewhere in the distance, new threats were forming, new dangers brewing. But for the first time in 3 days, Amma wasn't running. She was standing her ground. And she wasn't standing alone. The war Jiho had mentioned was coming. But as dawn broke fully over the mansion, painting everything in gold and shadow, Amma realized she was no longer just a casualty of that war. She was a player in it. And that changed everything. If Amma's courage to protect someone who never knew she existed touched your heart, drop a comment below. Have you ever silently cared for someone from a distance? Sometimes the quietest love speaks the loudest. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where invisible hearts become unforgettable. Your support means the world, just like Amma meant the world to Jiho, even when he couldn't say it. See you in the next story.